My name is Romero. I am from Peru and I'm doing an MBA at HEC Paris. I am from the cohort of September 23, which means I will finish the program by December and I will graduate in June next year in 2025. Before the MBA, I was living and working in Peru. I had around 12 years of experience and I was working in consulting, specifically in consulting related to digital and IT and analytics technologies. I spent around 6 years in IBM, and the last 5 years of my career, I was sales manager in charge of 3 countries in Latin America for Peru, Bolivia, and Ecuador. And we were selling consulting projects related to data and analytics to many types of clients, like from insurance companies, banking, telecommunications, and retail industries. I felt that I reached a point in my career where I wanted to go for a bigger challenge. And I am used to doing a lot of self-reflection every time in a while. So for example, every end of the year. And one of my conclusions was that I wanted to become a businessman. I wanted to create my own generational wealth. And I thought I needed to go in a bigger geography, learn from smarter people. I tried other paths, but to be able to live in another country and to then work outside my country and be in contact with what I call play in the big leagues, I needed to have a higher education degree and do an MBA because it's like the stepping point and the connection where you can actually meet other people and have this connection that will allow me to go into the other path that I wanted to. So that's why I choose. When I did a reflection about where to study, I first went through geography. So I grew up in Latin America and I was very influenced by movies and TV series. So I always thought the United States would be my natural option. But honestly, the way I live, everything about my habits, my lifestyle, it's way much more related to European lifestyle. So I said I have to go and I would like to live in Europe. And then when I looked for the top business school, HEC was always in the top ranking, and I was between going to UK or France. But ultimately, I felt like more connection to France because there's a sense of more culture related to art, poetry, football, and there are some of those elements that are really, really close to me. Like for example, I have a lot of passion for football. I wrote a few books about poetry and love stories. So there was something about France that I felt that it was calling me. And also Paris was the city that I had visited the most. I had been 3 times in Paris compared to other cities in the world, which I had been just only one. And I had certain vibe of international feeling, and I really liked it. That's why I ultimately knew that I wanted to come to France, and the best school, of course, was HEC, so that's what I made the choice. At the beginning, in term 1, there was a professor called Oliver Sibony. I think he's quite famous, although he only spends a few lectures with us. I think he's a part-time professor. And you can see right away that he thinks differently, and he taught us something called problem solving, which of course is a skill that nowadays is very demanded in the work environment. But even when it sounds obvious, the way or the thought process that he taught us about how to do this problem solving, it was remarkable. It was very thorough and it was very structured, and we went through many different types of problems, but the way he thinks and the way he presents it's very interesting, and I was able to absorb some of that. Also, there was a course called Search Fund. It really struck me because, as I said at the beginning, I wanted to become a businessman. Was one of my main goals why I came to do an MBA. And there I realized, I thought my entire life the only way to become a businessman was if I created one from scratch, which is really, really hard. We know that the rates of entrepreneurs who actually made it into business is around 3 to 5% after the first 5 years of creating a business. But then I discovered this other thing, that you can buy an existing business, which of course, now that I tell you, it sounds obvious and it sounds like big businessmen are buying businesses all the time. Yeah, but you as a single individual starting, sometimes you're not aware that could happen. And this was an elective I remember I took in April earlier this year. and it was eye-opening for me. And I said, okay, this is one of the things that I want to do in my life, that I have to do it. Amazing, amazing. There are thousands of objectives and many words. One of the key things here is the campus life. I know there are many top business schools around the world, and of course HEC being one of the ones in the peak, but the campus life makes totally the difference. Like more than 90% of the people in the program live on campus, and that allows us to interact way more frequently, like for example have dinner together. If one day I cook for my friends and the other days vice versa, or we just meet at the MBA lunch, or we meet at classrooms outside class hours. So that gives us a frequency of interaction and more quality of interaction. And of course everybody has their own lifestyle issues, so people share with you what they're going through, their emotions, if they're happy, not so happy, when they're stressed and worried. For one thing, you get mutual support with your friends for that, but also you get to learn how other people think, because you spend more time with them. I felt like if we were separated or only living in Paris and just coming to class every once during the week, the interaction would be more transactional or maybe of less quality. Also, we have many sport events, we have cultural events. I've learned so much about culture from India, China, Japan, the States, from the Middle East, for example. That is something that was completely out of my scope before and out of my radar. And we have events where we learn about food, we learn about the habits, the customs of the country, but we also learn about their economies, how these little worlds function. For example, the Middle East has a completely different way of function in terms of economics, demographics, compared to Asia, of course. But even inside Asia, the way India, China, Japan, Taiwan interact and work are also very differently. So I would have to say, like, the life in campus and the experience is very enriching. It opens your eyes, it opens your mind, and therefore you end up being a little bit of a different person. I've always said that the MBA is like a transformational process. You come as an individual, you get enriched by all these experiences, and of course you're supposed to come out as a world leader, and the school prepares you for that. For example, in sports related, so when I came to the school, I have many years training football. I've loved football my whole life. I'm very passionate about it, and I consider myself a great player. So when I came to the school and we get the first gathering together, and there it came the time to select like who could be the captain of the team and leading the guys, something that I learned is that good leaders lead, but also they allow themselves to be led. So I was spot in the moment, and I understood and I realized how I could handle and I could allow someone else to be the captain. In this case, my very good friend Sebastian Molter. He's from the US. He's younger than me. He's also a very good player. He's very passionate as I am. But I understood, since I wanted to do these other things that I mentioned before, like being in the clubs, the ambassador program, TC, I realized I already had a lot on my plate. And if I added one more thing, maybe I wouldn't be able to perform well at every level and everything that I wanted to. So one key learning that people constantly mention in the MBA is you have to learn how to say no to some things. So I was still part of the team. I knew I was going to the trainings, but I knew I had to say no to being the captain, because I had to let other people take the lead on that, and I had to let myself be led by that. And it worked out pretty well. At the end of the day, being the captain or not the captain, you understand that it does not make that big difference, because we're all a team and we're all doing our work collaboratively together. And I'm glad, and time proved me right, because I've been able to be there and to participate, and we have done amazing things. So that was one key learning for me. Also, it shows commitment, because here in Europe we have a climate and a weather very different from my hometown, and sometimes when we have autumn and winter, the weather is very tough. For me, it's very rare. We have nights that are very cold, 5 degrees, 0 degrees, and that's the time where the training takes place. So since it's not an official thing, many people could cancel or say, well, I don't want to go today, it's cold or it's rainy, etc. But since I was part of the team, and since I was at least vice captain, it put me in a place where I had to go and do the thing even if I didn't want to. And ultimately, like, all the experts in the world tell you that that's the definition of discipline. Like, it's not only doing the thing when you want to, but when you know you have to, and even when you don't want to, right? And that ultimately forces you a mindset of an achiever, of somebody who can move forward and who can actually do the things that are required, even if you don't want to. So that was like, I knew that before. I came with that similar mindset, but that helped me like put it like more stress into it and security in me. And as for the MBAT dancing team, there was a whole different story, but it's also a lot of discipline, what I mentioned. So a key learning that I had also is that I had to be humble enough to realize that the dancing that I proposed was maybe not the best one or not even good enough. I had to survey like the team members like personally and tell them, hey, do you think I'm doing things in the right way? Do you think I should do something in a different way? Or how is your general feeling of what is happening here? And there was an inflection point, honestly, because after doing that, people started telling me, yeah, I think you should change this, or I think we should go this way, this route. And little by little, we were able to twist it. We came up with a different choreography that everybody felt comfortable with. And also, we as a team were again a bit more ingrained together, because by talking to every single individual and then putting them back together, they kind of realized that I was stepping back, not trying to be the chief or the boss, but I was trying to be the guy putting like having the glue, having the team together, which is what a real leader does. And that helped me a lot also to open my eyes and to be more conscious and aware of other people's emotions, of other people's reactions. And ultimately, we did a great performance. Of course, we won that competition. We got gold medal. The program is designed in a way that you get to take around 5 electives. Sometimes it could be more, sometimes it could be less, depending on the activities that you do. I've been taking electives, yes. One of them was about search fund that I mentioned earlier. Another one was about public speaking, for example, your posture, how you put your voice, how to be aware of your auditorium. Another one was about succeeding in professional firms. So since I came from consulting, this course talked about how firms like Ernst & Young, Price Waterhouse, the Big Fours, how they treat their customers or how they address progress. So it was pretty interesting to hear some numbers and some insights there. And regarding internship, so internships are not mandatory in the program to graduate. You could or could not do it, but in my case, coming from Latin America and being here in a different continent and trying to learn how things work here, I think it was something that I had to do, that I wanted to do. So the school, one of the clubs that I was into, the entrepreneurship club, we had an event with startups from Station F, which is like a very famous incubator here. It's like the Silicon Valley in France, in Paris. So we had around 20 different conversations, interviews with startups working there, and ultimately I was able to get an internship in one startup called Mauna. They are dedicated to create an AI solution that prevents professional athletes from getting injured and improving their performance. So I did a 3-4 months internship there, and it was very, very insightful in terms of entrepreneurial style and contact with VCs and the impact of AI in sports. The program is very international. So anyone coming from Peru, or actually from any other nationality, will encounter people from all over the world. And I think that's where the real value of an international program is. Like, it's the classes and the academics are good, but the real value, I think, is outside the classroom, where you get to interact with your peers. So where you learn how their economies work, how do they think, when you contrast your point of view with others, people who are also sharp and very smart. And that's where you absorb that, you open up a bit more, and your brain changes in a way. So coming from Peru or other countries, the program prepares you for that. Of course, I think, yeah, because it puts you in an environment that is very international, professionals who have different types of experience. Some people have 3-5 years, some people have 10 or more years of experience, different backgrounds. We have lawyers, doctors, veterinarians, surgeons, of course, engineers and communicators. And so working in France and Paris is one of the most visited cities in the world, apparently the second one after Bangkok. So you already get like the international sense and business sense and also culturally aware. That's one thing. Also, you get to learn from operations, from business, marketing, communications, and you get to be rounded a little bit more as a leader. We're supposed to be business leaders, but beyond business, we're supposed to be leaders, the leaders of our lives, and leaders who have an impact in the world. So I would say in that sense, yes. And the third thing that we discovered when we came to the program is that although Paris is a very international city, we still require French to live and work in Paris. It's very, very demanded. So the school has French lessons every week, and they put you in different levels according to your current knowledge of the matter. But they also have the language center, who has many resources, so you can take exams. So I think in a way, there is a lot of work, of course, that you have to do on your own. You have to do by yourself because we're grown-up people, we're professionals. There's a lot of things and effort that you have to put on your own if you want to stay and work in France. But I think the school gives you the tools and a lot of what it's needed to succeed in that. Overall, I'm very happy I took the decision of coming to HEC to doing an MBA, because an international program like this has put me in a position where I've been able to grow 1,000 times faster and more than I would have if I had to stay in my country. The networking that I've been able to form, I've met founders, investors, CEOs, and people from all over the world. And definitely I'm now a different person, and I know I will be a different person in the next year coming. And I think I'm way much more prepared to face the world and to be a leader who has impact and change. And that's what I was ultimately pursuing.